My mom drained my savings to bail out my brother, and now she expects me to pay off her debts. I never thought this would be my life, but here I am. Last week, I opened my banking app to transfer money for my car insurance, only to see my savings account sitting at zero. Not a couple hundred missing, not even a few thousand. Completely wiped out. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe I clicked the wrong account? Maybe I transferred money without realizing it? But as I scrolled through my transaction history, reality hit me like a brick wall. One massive withdrawal, taken out just 2 days earlier. And the name attached to it? My mom. My heart dropped. My first reaction wasn't even anger, it was confusion. Why would she do this? We've always had a decent relationship, or so I thought, and she knows I've been saving for years to buy a house. I finally hit my goal of $220,000 a few months ago, and now, seeing that zero in my account felt like getting punched in the gut. I called her immediately, not yelling, just panicking. Me, did you take money out of my account? What's going on? She sighed like I was the one inconveniencing her and said, I needed it to help your brother. A little context. My younger brother, let's call him Dan, is the golden child. He's 27, but acts like he's still in high school. He's never held a steady job for more than a few months, and every time he screws up, my mom bails him out. Meanwhile, I've been working since I was 16, paying my own bills, and trying to build a future for myself. So yeah, hearing that my hard-earned savings went to him made my blood boil. I asked, what do you mean, help? She got defensive. Apparently, Dan was going through a rough patch and needed help paying off his credit card debt. He was being harassed by creditors, and she couldn't stand to see him so stressed. He's your brother, she said, like that was supposed to make it okay. Family helps family. I was speechless. That money wasn't just sitting there for you to take. I worked hard for it. Her response? You're young. You'll earn it back. Besides, it's not like I spent it on myself. That's when I realized she didn't see anything wrong with what she did. My savings were just another resource for her to tap into whenever she wanted. She even tried to guilt trip me, saying I was being selfish for making it about the money when my brother needed help. I couldn't get a word in without her twisting it back on me. I hung up and just sat there, staring at my empty account. I felt this overwhelming mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. Who does that? Who steals $220,000 from their own child without even asking? The next day, I went to her house to talk in person. Maybe if she saw how upset I was, she'd realize how wrong this was. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down. She told me I should be proud to help my brother, that I was being too materialistic for getting so upset over money. And then the kicker, you're lucky I didn't take it all for myself. At least I used it for something important. I lost it. I told her she had no right to touch my savings and that I wanted every penny back. She laughed, and said, good luck getting it from Dan. He doesn't even have a job right now. At that point, I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere with her. I left, but as I was driving home, something in my gut told me to dig deeper. If she stole my savings without telling me, what else has she done? I checked my credit report and every financial account I had, just to be safe. That's when I found out this wasn't the first time she messed with my finances. Apparently, she had co-signed a loan for my brother last year, using my name. I had no idea about this loan until now, and when I looked into it further, not a single payment had been made. I was in default. My credit score had taken a massive hit because of it. I confronted her again, and her response? It made my stomach turn. She admitted it, but said she had no choice because the bank wouldn't approve the loan otherwise. Then, she had the gall to ask if I could help out by paying it off for her. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a one-time thing. She's been using me as her financial backup plan for years, and I didn't even know it. My savings, my credit, everything I've worked for. Collateral damage in her mission to protect Dan from the consequences of his own stupidity. And the worst part? She doesn't think she did anything wrong. When I told her I was considering legal action, she laughed in my face. Go ahead. See how far that gets you. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. No savings, a ruined credit score, and a family that thinks I'm the villain for being upset about it. Update. I didn't think it could get worse, but I was so wrong. After our last confrontation, where my mom basically laughed in my face, I felt like I was losing my mind. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was the sheer audacity. How could my own mother do this to me and not even feel guilty about it? I couldn't let it go. Something in my gut told me there was more to the story. So I started digging. At first, I just wanted to figure out how to protect myself going forward. I froze my credit just in case and checked every single account I had to make sure nothing else was missing. And that's when I saw it. An unfamiliar loan, listed under my name. It wasn't a huge amount, just under $5,000, but I knew for a fact I hadn't taken it out. My stomach dropped as I stared at the details. The loan had been opened last year, and the payments had stopped months ago. It was now in default, and guess who was on the hook for it? Me. I called the loan company, and after a lot of back and forth, I found out that my mom had co-signed for my brother to get this loan, but she used my name. My name. She hadn't even asked me. She just forged my signature and went on her merry way. At this point, I was furious, but I still tried to tell myself that maybe, just maybe, she had a good reason. Maybe it really was a desperate situation, and she panicked. So, I called her, and her response? Oh, I meant to tell you about it, but you were so busy with work. I didn't want to stress you out. Stress me out? The loan was in default, my credit score had tanked, and she thought she was doing me a favor by keeping me in the dark? I demanded to know why she did it, and at first, she gave me the same excuse as before. It was for your brother. He needed the money, and I couldn't get approved on my own. But something about her tone didn't sit right with me. She sounded defensive, so I pressed her. I asked what exactly the loan was used for, and she tried to change the subject. She started ranting about how family is supposed to stick together and how I'd understand when I'm a parent someday. That's when it hit me. She was lying. There was no way this was just about Dan's credit card debt. I decided to do some more digging. I called Dan to see what he knew about the loan, and surprise, surprise, he didn't know anything. He said he hadn't seen a dime of that money and had no idea what I was talking about. At first, I thought he was lying to cover for her, but the more I listened, the more I realized he was just as clueless as I was. If the loan wasn't for him, then where did the money go? That's when I remembered something weird my aunt had said at a family gathering a few months ago. She mentioned that my mom had been unlucky at the casino lately. At the time, I didn't think much of it. My mom's always been a bit of a gambler, but it was never anything serious, or so I thought. I went back through my mom's Facebook. Yes, she's one of those moms who posts everything online, and found multiple photos of her at the casino. Some of them were dated around the time the loan was taken out. My blood ran cold. Could she really have used the loan and my savings to feed her gambling habit? I needed proof, so I confronted her again. I asked her point blank, "Did you use my money and the loan for gambling?" At first, she denied it, but when I brought up the photos and the timeline, she finally broke down and admitted it. She had been going to the casino almost every weekend for the past year. She'd racked up a ton of debt trying to win it all back and was in way over her head. She didn't just take my savings and the loan. She also maxed out her own credit cards and even borrowed money from other family members, none of whom knew about the gambling. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just about bailing out my brother. This was about her addiction. She had lied to everyone, stolen from me, and completely destroyed my trust, all because she couldn't control herself. And the worst part? She didn't seem sorry. She cried, sure, but it wasn't the kind of crying that comes from remorse. It was the kind of crying that happens when someone gets caught. She kept saying, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." To make matters even worse, when I told her I was considering legal action, she flipped the script and started blaming me. She said, "If you hadn't been so stingy with your money, I wouldn't have had to take it in the first place." Can you believe that? She stole $20,000 from me, ruined my credit, and then tried to make it my fault. I left her house that day feeling more hurt and betrayed than I ever have in my entire life. She's my mom. She's supposed to protect me, not use me as her personal ATM. I don't even know how to begin processing all of this. Part of me wants to cut her out of my life completely, but another part of me feels guilty. What if she really does have a gambling addiction? Should I try to help her, or should I just focus on protecting myself? The worst part is, I don't think she'll ever really change. She keeps saying she'll pay me back, but I know that's not going to happen. She doesn't have the money, and even if she did, she'd probably just blow it at the casino. After all of this, she still had the nerve to call me selfish for being mad. She actually said, "You're young, you'll bounce back." I had no choice, no choice. She had every choice, and she chose to ruin my life. Final update. After discovering that my mom used my savings and a fraudulent loan in my name to feed her gambling addiction, I thought I'd hit rock bottom. But it turns out I wasn't even close. The fallout from this whole mess has been more complicated and gut-wrenching than I ever could have imagined. The first thing I did after finding out was freeze my credit. If she'd taken out one loan in my name, who's to say there weren't others? I spent hours on the phone with my bank, the credit bureaus, and a lawyer, just trying to protect what was left of my financial future. Every time I had to explain this situation to someone, a stranger on the other end of the line, I felt like an idiot. The lawyer told me I had two options. I could report her to the police and press charges, or I could try to work it out privately. Both options felt terrible. On one hand, she's my mom. Turning her in would destroy whatever was left of our relationship and probably blow up the rest of my family too. On the other hand, if I didn't take legal action, I'd be stuck with the debt and no real way to get my money back. I'd also be sending her the message that what she did was okay. Spoiler, it wasn't. I decided to give her one last chance to make it right before going the legal route. I went to her house and laid it all out. I told her I knew about the gambling, the loan, and the other family members she'd borrowed money from. I told her I was done being her safety net, and that if she didn't pay me back and stop using me as her personal bank, I'd have no choice but to file a police report. Her response? She acted like I was the villain in the story. She started crying and saying things like, "I can't believe you'd do this to your own mother, and you're going to ruin me." She didn't even deny what she'd done. She just tried to guilt me into backing down. It was like talking to a brick wall, except the brick wall was calling me selfish for not wanting to be in crippling debt. What hurt the most was the look on her face. She didn't look sorry. She looked angry, like she was mad at me for daring to stand up to her. That's when I realized that no matter what I did, she wasn't going to change. She wasn't going to take responsibility, and she sure as hell wasn't going to pay me back. I had to accept the fact that my mom wasn't the person I thought she was. The next day, I filed the police report. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Even as I was explaining everything to the officer, I kept second-guessing myself. Was I doing the right thing? Was I overreacting? But then I remembered the $20,000 she stole, the loan she took out in my name, and the fact that she had no intention of making any of it right. Things got messy fast when my mom found out about the report. She went nuclear. She called me every name in the book and told the rest of the family that I was trying to send her to jail over a misunderstanding. She painted herself as the victim and me as the ungrateful daughter who was ruining her life. And you know what? Some of them believed her. Suddenly, I was getting calls from aunts, uncles, and cousins telling me to drop the charges. "She's your mom," they said, as if that erased everything she'd done. "You only get one mother," they told me, like I didn't already know that. The worst part? My brother, the one she was supposedly helping, sided with her. He said I was being petty and that I needed to let it go for the sake of the family. Easy for him to say, considering he wasn't the one stuck with a defaulted loan and no savings. But not everyone took her side. A few relatives reached out privately to tell me they supported me, and some even shared stories of their own about my mom borrowing money and never paying it back. Apparently, this wasn't a one-time thing. She's been doing this for years. But no one ever called her out, because that's just how she is. Hearing that made me feel a little less crazy, but it didn't make the situation any easier. I ended up going no contact with her for a while, which was both heartbreaking and liberating. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being dragged into her drama. But at the same time, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd lost. Not just the money, but the relationship I thought we had. I kept asking myself, was it ever real, or was she always just using me? The legal process is still ongoing, but I've started picking up the pieces. I'm working with my lawyer to clear my name from the loan and rebuild my credit. It's going to take time, but at least I'm moving in the right direction. As for my savings, I don't expect to see that money again anytime soon. But I'm learning to let go of the anger and focus on building a future for myself. The last time I spoke to my mom, she told me I'd regret what I'd done. She said, "One day you'll need me and I won't be there for you." And you know what? Maybe she's right. But at this point, I think I'm better off without her. I've spent my whole life trying to be the perfect daughter, trying to make her proud. But now I realize that no amount of money or loyalty will ever be enough for someone who only sees you as a means to an end. If you're ever in a situation like this, take it from me. Protect yourself. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. Did you enjoy the story? Want more? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for even crazier, unhinged Reddit stories. Your support means the world and helps my channel grow.